So we've already ranked the best baseball players under 30 years old. If you guys missed that video, I'll put it in the description down below. But today we're gonna do the exact same opposite. We're gonna start with 30-year-olds and go all the way into the oldest players in baseball and rank the best at every single age. There are so many future Hall of Famers in today's video, so I'm not gonna waste any more time. Let's get into it. So we are starting off with a bang. 30-year-olds, we have Carlos Rodon versus Xander versus Machado versus Mookie versus J-Ram versus Bryce Harper versus Aaron Judge, and you guys decided it's Aaron Judge. I'm gonna have to agree with you guys. Aaron Judge became the 4th player in the history of baseball to have 60+ home runs and a 10+ WAR in the same season, but Aaron Judge wasn't just special inside the batter's box. He was playing elite defense in right field. If you wanted him in center, he could also get the job done. Aaron Judge all around had an insane season. I forgot to mention that he also had 16 stolen bases, so he could have become the first player in history to have 60 home runs and 20 stolen bases in the same season. I don't think he'll hit 60 again, but a 50 home run, 20 stolen base season, I want to see it. So we have some pretty good players who are 31. We have Chris Bryant, JT Realmuto, Nolan Arenado, and the GOAT. Mike Trout could have retired 4 years ago and he would walk into the Hall of Fame as a first ballot. I'm hoping that Mike Trout becomes a unanimous Hall of Famer one day, but you know writers out there, they're stupid. They're not going to do that. Mike Trout had 40 home runs in 2022, even though he missed a whopping 43 games. He is the greatest player of our generation. Other 31-year-olds, Nolan Arenado and Chris Bryant, they're no slouches, but look at Mike Trout. This is 31-year-old Mike Trout flying in center field. I also want to mention that he had one of his better defensive seasons, 3 outs above average. That put him on pace. If he played a full season to be in the Gold Glove conversation, he would have had 50 or more home runs. It would have been his best season as a baseball player, but unfortunately, we're gonna have to wait until 2023. Hopefully he stays healthy, and I want to see a monster season. The best 32-year-old, we have Wheeler versus Gausman versus Cole versus Altuve, and surprisingly, I'm going Altuve. Some of you aren't gonna like this pick, but 32-year-old Jose Altuve, yeah, I have to go with him, and I'm just gonna give him his flowers real quick because he honestly deserves them. Now, whether or not you believe he cheated in 2017, a lot of his teammates have said, hey, we're gonna have his back. He did not use the trash cans. The evidence also supports it. So let's go ahead and talk about what Jose did in 2022. This guy had a 300 batting average with 28 home runs, 18 stolen bases, a prodigious 164 WRC plus. That is inhuman for a 5'5'6" second baseman. You're not supposed to be able to do that. He played some pretty good defense as well. Jose Altuve is well on his way to becoming a Hall of Famer. Again, whether you like him or not, you watched, and that's all that matters. 33-year-old, we have George Springer versus Freeman versus Sale versus Rizzo versus Stanton. I think this one's pretty obvious. So many future Hall of Famers in today's video. 33-year-old Freddie Freeman, in my opinion, is a Hall of Famer in the making, and we'll talk about some other ones later on in the video. But Freddie Freeman, even though the power did dip in 2022, I don't know if it was because Dodger Stadium isn't as forgiving as Atlanta, but he still had a fantastic 2022 campaign, a 325 batting average with 70 extra base hits, so he still had good pop. He was just driving the gaps more often, collecting those doubles. He had a 157 WRC plus and a near 7.5 FWAR. Freddie Freeman, in my opinion, is one of the best first basemen I've ever seen. If I'm going through the memory bank, I have Paul Goldschmidt, I have Freddie Freeman. Like, if we're not talking about the big boys, Pujols, Miggy, and Votto, I have to say that Goldie and Freddie Freeman are in that conversation for some of the most well-rounded first basemen that this game has ever seen, or at least in my generation. All right, let's get the comment section going a little bit. We have Kershaw versus Jacob deGrom versus Starling Marte versus LeMahieu. Now, if we're talking about careers, obviously you have to go with Clayton Kershaw, probably the greatest starting pitcher of my generation. But if we're talking about the most talented, I have to give it to Jacob deGrom. Over his last few seasons since 2018, he has a minuscule 2.05 ERA, a 2.14 FIP, and an almost 12.5 strikeouts per 9. Again, I love Clayton Kershaw. They're both injury prone, so it's not like you can use injuries against one because they're both off the field often because they can't stay healthy. At least if we're talking about the last few years, but if I'm going ceilings, I feel like Jacob deGrom still has a higher ceiling going into 2023, just ahead of Clayton Kershaw. So no disrespect to the GOAT, but I'm going Jacob deGrom. Getting up there in age now, we have Goldie versus JD Martinez versus Michael Brantley. By the way, did you know Buster Posey's only 35? Paul Goldschmidt secured his ticket to Cooperstown in 2022. He won his first MVP, which makes my heart so happy because he was so close a couple different times since the beginning of his career. He hit 315 with 41 doubles, 35 home runs, a 177 WRC plus, and a 7.1 FWAR. Again, he is going to walk into the Hall of Fame. If I'm talking about the most talented first first basemen I've ever seen. For me, I think you have to put Paul Goldschmidt in that conversation because once upon a time, I don't remember the exact year, but he had 30 plus stolen bases in a single season. He plays first base. He's won a Gold Glove 4 separate times. So considering everything that Goldie has done throughout his career, if you're not a collector of his cards, they're fairly cheap because the guy just doesn't speak. He lets his bat do the talking. I'm okay with that because Goldie, this guy's really good. I mean, come on. This guy can also hit 320 with 30 home runs and 30 stolen bases. He doesn't make sense. The best 36-year-old, we have Darvish versus Blackmon versus McCutchen versus Jose Abreu. As a Guardians fan, I'm not supposed to like Jose Abreu. He made my life a living hell for the last decade. Ever since he defected from Cuba, he has been an RBI machine. He also, I'm not going to say stole, but the MVP in the shortened season could have gone to J-Ram. Anyways, Jose Abreu is my best 36-year-old going into 2023. Last season, he hit 304 with 65 extra base hits. He also improved the defense as well. 1 DRS. Now, that's not spectacular or anything, but it's still really good. Biggest difference, though, Jose Abreu is going to be on a competent 2023 Astros team, whereas the White Sox last year, everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. So Jose Abreu, he is pretty much on the cusp of being a Hall of Famer or not. He has a near 31 career WAR, which is not the highest, but he has 1,400 base hits. If Jose Abreu can keep it going for the next 4 or 5 years up into his 40s, he might have a chance. Moving on to 37, you have Josh Donaldson versus Evan Longoria versus Matt Carpenter and David Robertson. I think I'm going to go Longo. Not going to lie, I felt like 37 was pretty tough because you could have gone with Josh Donaldson because his defense was pretty special last year. He was one of the better defenders in all of baseball. It's just his offense, it really fell back. David Robertson was very solid, but Evan Longoria, over the last 2 seasons, he's been injured, but I'm not going to hold that against him in today's video. Over his last 170 games, he has 27 home runs and an almost 120 WRC plus. Those are really good numbers, and now that he's going to be a little bit healthier playing for the Diamondbacks, I expect his defense to get just a tad bit better. No, he's not going to be the human vacuum that he was back when he was with the Rays, but a few more good seasons out of Evan Longoria, just like Jose Abreu, he might put himself in the conversation of Hall of Famer as opposed to just the Hall of Very Good. This is very fair. We have 38-year-old Yuli Gurriel versus Justin Turner versus this guy. I mean, no disrespect to the other players that we just named, but yeah, Max Scherzer, the two-eyed wait, everyone has 2 eyes. The multicolored-eyed monster himself, Max Scherzer, yet again was special in 2022. Since 2017, I'm just going to go ahead and say he has a 2.69 very nice ERA, a 2.86 FIP, and 11.8 strikeouts per 9. I mean, Max Scherzer, honestly, just like a lot of the players that we talked about today, a first ballot, no doubt about it, should be unanimous, but again, there's some dummies in the Hall of Fame voting. The best 39-year-old, I mean, aside from Charlie Morton, we're talking about future Hall of Famers in Votto, Miggy, Verlander, and Greinke. I gotta go with JV. If you had 39-year-old Justin Verlander, who just came off of Tommy John surgery, winning Cy Young in his first season back, on your baseball bingo card for 2022, I want to be you because you made a lot of money. I thought that Justin Verlander was going to be pretty good in 2022, but not a 1.75 ERA with an almost 6.5 F-WAR. Justin Verlander is someone that ages like fine wine. That is not my saying. That is coined by my boy GiraffeneckMarc, but JV, an easy pick for 39. Funny enough, there aren't any 40-year-olds going into 2023 unless we're talking about Cano, and I don't think he's going to play again. But let's move on over to the best 41-year-old. There's only really one, and it's Adam Wainwright. This is most likely the final season for Uncle Charlie. They call him that because his curveball is so devastating. 41-year-old Adam Wainwright, since turning 38, a lot of people just expected him to kind of fade into the sunset, have a Viking send-off, but no, he said, I'm going to actually get better. A 3.34 ERA since turning 38 years old. Again, I really feel like he has one of the better curveballs in Major League Baseball history. Is he good enough to make the Hall of Fame? I mean, I guess if we make a part 2 to this video and he's the best 42-year-old or 43-year-old, I don't know if he has enough, but I love Adam Wainwright. What a career. Rich Hill versus Nelson Cruz. Yeah. Who would have thought that Nelson Cruz would kind of redeem himself in the baseball community after he botched that play in right field in the World Series? He got busted for PEDs, and then he actually had a pretty decent career since then. I don't know if PEDs stay in the system for that long, but he leads Major League Baseball in home runs since 2014 with 302. One of the most feared hitters in baseball. I'll give him that. Again, I don't know if it's fueled by anything, but Nelson Cruz, good for him. He's had a very solid end to his career. The best 43-year-old could have been Pujols, but he retired. There's no one at 44. There's no one at 45. So yeah, that's the video. If you watched until the end, I just want to say thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it. Baseball is almost here. I can't wait. Thank you guys again one more time for watching. Leave a like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.